Hey, how you doing? This is Steve Sims. Welcome to another episode of The Art of Making Things Happen, the podcast. And I'm going to be chatting today with Ryan Tate of Vetpaw. Now, a good friend of mine actually sent me a video and went, "Oh, you need to speak to Ryan." And I get those emails a lot. And it's kind of like, this guy made a fortune from ClickFunnels. This guy did this with copy. It's those kind of things. And I'm not, poo-pooing on people that made money out of that. Good luck, yeah. But it's not where my podcast is. And I thought half-heartedly, all right, I'll watch the videos. My God, I'm glad I did. We're talking about Marines that go down to South Africa and protect from poaching. And I always thought poaching was people from local villages that had no money. I could kind of understand why they were doing it, even though I didn't agree with it. But then Ryan told me that this is organized crime. And in the 8 years that they've actually been down there protecting elephants, rhinos, there's not been a single poach been done on their watch. This man's an entrepreneur. He's a Marine. He's a hard ass, but he knows about doing the most with the least, which is what every entrepreneur does. Listen to why he does it, why he's fighting two battles, not only conservation, but also looking after vets and understanding PTSD. Listen to the podcast, take everything he's talking about and transcribe it into your business. It's a great podcast. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Now, I get to meet some interesting people. I get to meet some fascinating, successful people that have done incredible well. I've met military. We've had SEALs. We've had mafia bosses on. Let's start off with the basics. You are a very, I don't know if the word successful, but accomplished and respected Marine. You've had a lot of time in active duty within Iraq. I noticed that just a few of the awards: Marine of the Year, Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year. You've seen a lot of action.
I have, yes. I did serve in Iraq back when it was a real hot spot, and Ramadi was my last tour, and it was the most dangerous city in the world for anybody. It was brutal, hands down.
Now, I've had people, sorry to cut in. I've had people recommend many guests to me before, and I've had people recommend vets to me, which a lot of them I've actually had on the show. But you've actually taken your skill set and focus to a completely different sandpit with Vetpaw. How did you go from being a defender of our rights and freedom to doing Vetpaw, and explain for those out there what Vetpaw is?
Sure. So I guess I should start with that. Vetpaw is Veterans Empowered to Protect African Wildlife. We are a U.S. and South African registered nonprofit organization. We train, advise, and assist counter-poaching rangers in Africa, utilizing U.S. combat veterans and their skills. And in turn, that also provides a place of healing, in a sense, for the veterans, because they're protecting some of the most endangered species in the world. You're talking elephants. We have less than 300,000 left. Depends who you ask. I mean, stats are always moving. Rhinos, the black rhino, we're about 5,000 to 6,000 left. White rhinos, 20,000, less than 20,000. Lions are even at 20,000 left. So it's a real problem. And I've always kind of had an entrepreneurship mindset, even before I knew what it was, what the term entrepreneur is. And so I've always tried to practice bringing a solution to a problem. And when I started this organization, it just made so much sense. When I had this idea back in 2013, when I worked for the U.S. Department of State, and everything that I had seen in war and in combat, you come back, PTSD, they call it. It's a term thrown around everywhere. It's very real. But all the emotions that I had, depression, anxiety, anger, confusion, everything that is a result of not just war, but just life experiences. I think PTSD, war PTSD kind of exploits other challenges and traumas that you've had in your life. So anyways, I watched this documentary, and what I saw in the documentary just unleashed everything that I was trying to bottle up and cope with. And I thought that I was a happy person, but where I'm at now in life, and I look back at myself in my mid to late 20s, I was miserable, and I have no idea. I have so much empathy for myself back then. And honestly, it's these animals and this new purpose in life that I have that's really allowed me to heal and get past that PTSD. And so, yeah, I started Vetpaw based on a documentary that I saw. I had never even been to Africa. I had no interest in going to Africa, especially having served in the Middle East and all over the world. I just wanted to come home and enjoy my country. And then as soon as I saw this documentary, see ya, I was crying. I was mad. I saw this rhino. She had been poached by the poachers took tranquilizers and darted her. They got the tranquilizers off the black market. And the reason they did this was because tranquilizer guns don't go bang, so nobody hears it. The park rangers don't hear it. So she goes to sleep. They hack through her face, remove the horn, which can fetch over $1 million in some cases on the black market. That's a very high number. Regardless, it goes for a lot of money. And so when the local conservationists on the reserve found her and she had awoken, they started filming and recording this while they waited for veterinarians to come and put her down. And there was a time period in my life where when I retold this story, it was tough to hold back, to hold back tears. And it still makes me very emotional. But looking at the eyes of this animal, she was so confused, clearly in pain, humiliated, scared. Her newborn calf was lost in the bush and later died. And I felt everything that she was feeling, everything that rhino was experiencing. I was experiencing it with her. And so she kind of saved me in a sense. And it was a very pivotal moment in my life. It was, I saw this, I used to go to NYU to watch speakers. They would have well-known leaders from Hollywood or entrepreneurship, things like that, open forums. And it was, I cannot remember his name now, so I hope he doesn't see this, but is the director of Life of Pi. And one of the young students, and this is right after I watched this documentary, like a week later, one of the students asked him in the Q&A, what life advice would you give to a young person graduating college and, entering the real world? He thought about it and he said, if you are so passionate about something that it hurts, you can feel it up here in your chest, then you need to do something about it or you're going to die with regret. And I can honestly say from that point forward, my biggest fear is dying with a regret. And it was, as soon as he said that, there was no turning back. It just kind of set the course. Everything was a godsend, or the stars aligned. It was too perfect not to pursue. So,
all right. So you've got the passion, you've got the momentum, something's triggered you to go and do something. No man can fight alone. And you know that metaphor better than absolutely anybody. How did you actually get out to others? And I've seen the YouTube videos, and we're going to make sure those videos, as well as actual links to Vetpaw, are going to be in the show notes of this, wherever it's put out. But how did you approach the conversations with other people and go, hey, you need to be part of this? And was there any kind of don't be silly, that's other people, or why should we be doing? Did you get any of those kind of conversations? Give us both sides.
Oh, how much time you got? Because I got that so much. My mother was the first one. She said, no, Ryan, you can't go to Africa. And she'll tell you now, I knew that you were going to go. She could just hear it in my voice. I had a lot of veterans that were like, hell yeah, let's do it. But they thought it was a pipe dream. I was working with the U.S. Department of State at the time. So as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, I went in and served on protective details for diplomats, both foreign and domestic. And I was very content with it. I was lucky to have a job at the time, but man, it was boring. I didn't have that purpose. So I was just riled up. Like, hey, this is an opportunity, and not to sound arrogant here, but this is an opportunity to actually use my skills to possibly change the world or make it a better place. And so some people got it, some didn't, but I was able to use my connections at the U.S. Department of State because of the relationships that I built with some of the higher up brass and more senior advisors, they kind of gave me some advice and advisement, and gave me access to skiffs to review documents and things, just to do some research. And I pissed off just about everybody I could, because I was stepping on toes. I don't work. I'm not a foreign affairs officer. I'm just here to help with security. And so finally, I had an assistant secretary of state approach me on a Friday at a public meeting that I took leave from to go to, private citizen. And she knew who I was somehow. And she said, "Ryan." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm just here to observe, and I was going to ask a question here." She said, "If you ask a question, you'll be fired. And on Monday, I need you in written form, to tell me that you will stop this game that you're playing. No more Africa, no more veterans counter poaching." And I said, "Good to go." So she kicked me out of the meeting. And then on Monday, I said, "Screw you." And I turned in my resignation papers, because I had already met everybody from the African governments that I needed to. And so you're not going to tell me to, this isn't about you. It's not about foreign affairs. This is about species and, helping veterans and developmental assistance. Let's put them back to work. Let's use the skills that we've, as taxpayers, have invested so much money into. Now they just sit there and go to waste. And so does the veteran. Their soul just slowly dies. It's miserable. And
how could that conversation? I'm just sitting there thinking, hang on. And again, I've seen the videos, I've seen you guys. Now, hey, nice guys, not saying anything here, but I don't want to be on the wrong side of you trained soldiers. And we're now saying, hey, let's take a group of you, stick you down in South Africa, and be prepared to confront people that are going to come in and try and take. Now, it's not the richest area in the planet, so you can understand why people are doing things to make money, even though they are bad things. You can at some point understand, look, they don't have a lot of other opportunities, but they're now going to be confronted with trained military. How was the South African government feeling about bringing you in and or allowing you to come in and put your mark on that area?
Sure. So I actually started. Oh, and by the way, she also said right when I walked off, and I almost popped off, because I do, at least back then, I had a little bit of a temper. She said, "And by the way, we don't understand how veteran skills translate to counter poaching." And I'm like, oh, how disrespectful. That said, I wish her all the best in her career in life. We were actually invited by the president of Tanzania. We met with their ministry, everything of natural resources and tourism. And they looked at me and they said, "Hey, we want our rangers to operate like Marines in the bush." And I'll always forget that, Marines. They were just so, and to hear an East African government talking about how they love US Marines was pretty cool. But, we went in not a bunch of freedom fighters, follow me to freedom, the American way is the right way. I went in to observe first. Things that I don't. I have no idea what to expect, and I want to learn from you. And then let's figure out where the skills that I have and other veterans have and experiences. Then let's try to plug those in, and let's fill some gaps here. So we went out there and literally we started the first wildlife crimes task force in Tanzania. So they focus on intelligence gathering and exploitation. Instead of going out in a massive wildlife reserve and trying to find a needle in a haystack, you actually go undercover. I've been undercover many times. I can't anymore because I'm doing podcasts and things like that. But no, we went undercover and taught the locals how to do that. And the very first operation that we did, in 36 hours, we apprehended and dismantled the criminal network that was responsible for over 18,000 elephant deaths in 1 year.
Wow.
18,000.
That must have felt good.
It did feel good. And then out of nowhere, you get bit by corruption. And the next thing you know, I had a bounty on my head by the ISIS locals there. The only reason I left the country is because I had a deadly spider bite on my foot, and the hospital said, we can't help you here, go back to the States.
Jeez.
But no, it's very organized crime. A lot of people think that it's just some poor guy trying to feed his family or send his kids to boarding school. It's not the case. Yes, there is a minority amount of cases where it is a local villager being exploited by a big criminal syndicate. But in many cases, these are bad people that also traffic drugs, firearms, and people. They commit terrorist activities. ISIS has been known to fund over 40% of their operations in Africa off of the illegal wildlife trade of elephant tusks, rhino horn, pangolin. And some people say it's been debunked, but I'll tell you right now, that's BS. It is very true. It's very, very true.
Never thought of that. I came into that beginning of the conversation thinking it was the local villagers just trying to make money, and now you're telling me it's organized crime. Had not conceived that.
Yeah, and I don't walk around in life pretending to know what it's like in someone else's shoes. If we apprehend somebody, man to man or person to person, I should say, let's sit down and let's relate on something, and let's find some common ground, and let's change this. Our goal is not to throw people in jail or kill anybody or shoot anybody. We have so many different methods that we've developed in time that mitigate any risk of the escalation of force. It's teaching these people how to think smarter, and also educating them so they become stakeholders in the wildlife, which is their heritage. It's not a bunch of guys just going Jason Bourne in the bush and running around trying to look cool or any of that stuff. I care for these people.
I've seen a lot of the time, and again, I'm referring to the videos I've seen where you've actually done a lot of village excursions where you've gone into the villages to introduce yourself, let you know. And I saw a great video of you offering the kids motorcycle rides up and down just to kind of like give some relation, just get friendly with the groups. I want to, this may sound a funny question. I want to talk to you about marketing. How important is it for you to market the fact that you are there to get people that are potentially thinking of going out there to cut off a tusk? You've got to market yourself. You've got to advertise yourself. This is probably one of the only times in your industry of being an active soldier fighting a war where you want people to know you're there. How do you do that?
So we have a headquarters facility in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. That is our home base. And then we send training and advisement teams that also assist when needed to other locations in Africa. The biggest thing with our headquarters reserve, scream as loud as possible. We're here, and don't come anywhere close to it, or you're going to pay a price, because there's way less of these animal species left than there are humans. And I carry that every day. I'm expendable. There's 8 billion people on this planet. I'm one of 8 billion. How many are left of them? So yeah, absolutely. It's more of a deterrent at our headquarters facility. But when we go to other locations, it's really, really hard because it just sends poachers elsewhere. And so it's a game of cat and mouse, and you've got to sneak in, very low key. You don't want anybody knowing that you're there, or if they do, they shouldn't know what you're doing there or who you're with. And you have to get creative. I mean, I think that's with anything in this world, whether it's business, nonprofit, conservation. We have to bring an unconventional approach to a conventional sector. And I think that's what the Marine Corps taught me most is, especially when you're a nonprofit. And I think the Marine Corps is probably the nonprofit of the U.S. Armed Forces because we have the least amount of money, but we do the most with the least. And so you have to practice that here. And if you really want to change a culture or bring a real sustainable solution to a problem, you have to be unconventional. You have to get creative. People are going to think that you're nuts or that it won't work. And you got to find a way to take that and use that as fuel. Prove them wrong. It's, I think entrepreneurs, I consider myself one. We're probably the most stubborn people in the world, but we use it to our advantage. We get stuff done. It's not a if, it's a how. Let's figure it out.
I like that statement. Do the most with the least. So that's exactly every entrepreneur's mantra. How many people do you have on average down in South Africa?
So I can't give out the numbers just for operational security.
Oh, okay.
But we have a full-time team on the ground right now. They're actually out on patrol now, and they've been on the ground. We've had teams on the ground since 2016.
And are you just focusing on South Africa, or are you thinking of going elsewhere in the planet?
We will go anywhere and everywhere in Africa and around the planet. We've had Central America and South American nations reach out. It's all about funding.
Yeah.
We've worked in East Central Africa, the Southern Hemisphere of Africa, anywhere that and it's not the places that are getting all the attention. The interesting thing in conservation is all of the money goes to the groups or the reserves that are getting hit the most. And it's like, well, wait a second, we're just going to keep funneling money into this. Where's the solution? Where's the results? And the people that are doing it the right way, us included, we get left out because you're not seeing all these gory pictures of rhinos. We've never had an animal poached under our watch in 8 years. So it's interesting. That just makes it a tougher puzzle to solve. And, I'm not knocking any other organization. I don't know their situations, but for those of us that are doing it the right way and to sustain those operations, you really got to get creative. And times can get tough, but failure is not an option, and especially in conservation, it's just not.
So this needs repeating. You've not had a single animal poached in 8 years on your watch?
That's correct.
That's if this was a stage audience, everyone would be erupting by now. Everyone listening to this podcast should pull over and just give a clap straight off the bat. That's fantastic. How much? And like everything, there's got to be a lot of people out there that you're stepping on their toes of making money. We've already spoken about that, organized crime. And a lot of the time, those fights are handled in social battles, by trying to discredit you or, come up with some kind of, you don't know what you do, anything like that. Elon Musk is getting a hell of a lot now because of Twitter. So how much hatred or bad press? Now, we've already just established, I won't use the word won, but you're winning or you've achieved great results in your battle by having 0 animals hurt on your watch. But how many people are throwing sticks at you to try and discredit you to get you off that turf?
Oh, I've had my fair share. Personally, usually they attack me. It's like, hey, you can go check our 990s. I make the least amount in this company than everybody. I live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, and I finally bought my first car because my wife told me I need to. 2 years ago. The first car I've had in 8 years. I'm very dedicated, but conservation I love my conservation people, but we have a lot of unstable people that think it is a competition. If you can do it better than me and you can help veterans and protect wildlife better than me, I will be your biggest fan. Go do it. Do it. We need people that are committed. If you can do it better, it's for my ultimate end goal is that there is no Vetpaw. It means that veterans have outlets for their skills, meaningful ones, and wildlife is living happily as it should in freedom. And I just don't think that you'll find that out there. But yeah, I've had people, they do the basic online background search that you can pay like $10 and they see every address that I've lived in the history. And so they're running around saying that I have 8 houses and stuff. It's like, I rented that and it was a studio in New York City. Okay.
And they think you own New York. How important is it for you? Because I see 2 battles here. I see one that's the conservation, okay, the protecting of animals. I see that battle. The other battle I'm seeing coming from you is the help to vets. So I see 2 things going on here, and they're helping each other. How important was it for you to make sure that this was a vet-backed program?
Steve, I really appreciate you bringing that up because it's something that's often overlooked. when I started this, I just wanted to go to Africa and kick some ass and save animals. That was my mission. But what we realized years down the road, because it is a very organic and holistic path that's, at least this side of Vetpaw has been on, what we've noticed is the veterans. The beginning of COVID, I'll use this as an example. I called up the team that was in Africa and I said, hey guys, I totally understand if you need to come home to be with your families. It's an uncertain future. I was prepared to just go out there with my director of operations and we were just going to hold it down, and not a single one would leave. We said, this is our livelihoods. These animals we're attached. We have to stay here because God forbid something were to happen to them. We couldn't live with that. And it's incredible. I mean, I've got one guy, he has formed a bond with a female black rhino. That never happens. I'm terrified of black rhinos. They'll kill you. And I told him to stop doing this, but he'll stand like 30 feet away and just talk to her and stuff and sit down and hang out with her. I'm like, you're going to have to sign some more waivers for me. Liability waivers. But no, it is, instead of the, medicine cocktail that the Veterans Affairs and, any doctors like to dish out, it's ecotherapy. You need to be outside. You need to be in nature. You need to breathe the fresh air, get away from, especially in today's world, the craziness of society, and just see what life is really about. And to me, it's the healthiest way of healing possible.
Wow. Now, your website, the easiest way to find out about you is how?
So we have www.vetpaw.org. That's Victor Echo Tango Papa Alpha Whiskey.org. We're on Instagram at Vetpaw, Twitter, Facebook. We also just came out with the new NFT program. So on OpenSea with an insane artist. He's incredible, Marcel Van Lout. You can actually, the beautiful thing about what we do is you can come and see it in person at our headquarters. We do have a tourism program. It's for a really good price when you compare it to other organizations out there. And you get to hang out with the veterans, ask about their experience. And once you're out there, you're part of family. It'll change your life. It's just incredible.
That's absolutely.
So you're coming out, Steve. You and your wife.
Yeah, you brought it up just before we actually came on, and I warned you, don't invite, because me and my wife will be like, we're there. So I'm actually stating it clearly on this podcast that we are going to come out, Ryan.
Perfect. Maybe we'll find a local African entrepreneur for your podcast while you're out there.
There you go.
In the village.
Maybe we'll even bring some more people that follow me. Maybe they should donate, and maybe we should make a group of it. Maybe we should get some more people out there. But
let's do it.
I'm liking where this is going. Ryan, thank you so much for doing what you do on all the battles that we've confronted. Thank you for standing up for someone that quite simply needs that defense. And again, this can't be repeated. 8 years and not one poach. Congratulations, my friend. It's been an absolute honor to have this podcast with you.
Thanks so much, Steve. I really appreciate you.
Look after yourself. Bye.
Take care.
Hey, I hope you liked that episode of the Art of Making Things Happen podcast. And remember, these are done for you. If you like them, subscribe, share them around. But if you don't like them, send me an email to ask@stevedsims.com and you can tell me what I need to do to make this the most dynamic podcast you listen to. Anyway, make sure whatever you learned from the last podcast, you actually do something with. Without action, it's just a bunch of people blowing air. Have a good time. Until next time. Bye.